Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is the 5th May 2016. The first article is related to the drought and the reaction of the government by Yogendra Yadav. So now, Yogendra Yadav is the convener for the Swaraj Abhiyan, and it has filed a case in the Supreme Court with regard to the drought action by the government. So what the union government says is that drought relief is the responsibility of the state. But however, if you take about Disaster Management Act, it clearly imposes certain responsibilities on the center. So in this context, the author argues that India still suffers from the colonial mindset in handling the drought. Rather than seeing it as a humanitarian crisis, government tries to see it as an economic obligation in which spend little and publicize more or say more is the attitude the government is following. In the old days, in the British era, the government used to issue the famine codes whenever there was a drought. And the financial allocations made for these famine codes are very less. So the implementation was always on the back seat. The democratic constitutional government is also taking a same thought on handling of the drought in the country. Now in this case, let us see the Disaster Management Act. According to this, National Disaster Management Authority under the chairmanship of the Prime Minister is created, and added to that, National Disaster Response Force has to be developed. But this NDRF is trained in acute disasters but not in the chronic disasters like drought. And the second is, the government as per the law has to bring in national disaster policy, also shall create disaster mitigation plan and mitigation fund. And both of these things are not being taken up by the central government even today. Added to that, in declaration of the disaster or drought affected districts, there is a lot of discretion to the political authorities, and the drought mitigation is always neglected and arbitrary. So in this context, government has clear data in its hand. The Ministry of Agriculture in 2009 itself, it has given the drought mitigation plan, and later we also have the data which has been provided every year as a drought assessment report. So in spite of having this data clearly, the government is not acting on the drought appropriately. So the MGNREGA, the National Food Security Act, these are the two things that can come aid in fighting the drought now. But however, the financial allocations as part of the GDP and also the release of the finances in time are the major drawbacks. The center is supposed to give 12,000 crores to the states, but the center hasn't released them yet. And the second thing is, the release of the payments to the job seekers is equally affected. So in this context, the National Food Security Act, many states have their teething problems and not implementing. And the poor states are the worst in these conditions, especially the UP, which did not take it forward. So in this context, the Supreme Court has given his ear to the drought conditions. It is rather than the Parliament which has to be the house of the people, it is the Supreme Court which has tried to solve this particular issue. So that is what is the author expects or author anguishes. Now coming to the none of the above button. So with regard to the none of the above button, in 2013 in People Union for Civil Liberties case, the Supreme Court has stated that the NOTA shall be the part of our electoral voting mission. So in this case, what is the NOTA? The pressing of the NOTA by a voter shows that he is not interested in any of the candidates. So once the EVMs have come into existence, the citizen was not in a position to express his dissent. So under Article 19(1)(a), it is violative of his freedom of speech and expression, giving an credence to it. What the Supreme Court said is, every EVM shall consist of a NOTA button. And even before the NOTA button also, there is an option under 49(o) of electoral conduct rules According to this, a person who wants to express the dissent shall go to the presiding officer and take a particular form and fill it. So in this case, the identity of the person will be revealed. So in which, if you observe, the electoral laws clearly states that my voting choice has to be secretive. No person shall explicitly state his voting choice, which is punishable offence up to 3 months. So in this context, the Supreme Court has clearly stated it is also violative of the person's right to privacy and said every voting machine shall have a NOTA button. Now, if you take Bangladesh, Sweden, and certain states in the United States of America, all these have an impact of the NOTA button. It means if NOTA gets the more votes, a re-election has to be conducted with a new set of candidates. And in some cases, the ballot paper will have a blank where a person can suggest whom he can be who can be his choice of candidate. And then, if you go to United States, Nevada, etc., in these particular states, the state has to cancel the elections, or it has to keep it aside. So it means the NOTA has certain effect in different countries. But in India, voting for NOTA as of now do not have any impact. So since these 3 years, what is its impact is? So around 1% of the votes are casted on NOTA. But the number of votes polled for NOTA are high where the reserved candidates are contesting the elections. It shows that the deep social prejudices that are existing among the Indian society. So, but however, in the later date, the Supreme Court and Express are widened the scope of the NOTA that we have to wait and see. Coming to the Medical Council of India, you know that the Medical Council of India is filled with huge corruption. So in this context, the Medical Council of India has to be reformed. Further, a bill is introduced in the Parliament. A committee, standing committee of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare in the Parliament headed by Ranjit Rai Chowdhury has given a set of recommendations where MCI has to be made a professionally managed body and its actions shall be made transparent, separation of professional functions and regulatory functions from each other. So like that, certain recommendations are being made. So the centre did not move ahead with this. So to implement the MCI Act in letter and spirit, now the Supreme Court has appointed a 3-member committee headed by the former Chief Justice of India, Mr. Lodha. So in this case, the Lodha committee has many of the actions which it has to take up. For example, bringing in transparency in the actions of MCI, providing for increase in doctor to people ratio, population ratio in the country, and decreasing the gap of the seats between undergraduates and postgraduates in India, and providing for relaxation of the norms so that more medical colleges can come to train the doctors. Like this, there are many reformative steps have to be taken to improve the healthcare situation on the ground. If you carefully observe, the concentration of the doctors is high in the urban areas without a proper access in the rural areas. This equity and access situation need to be corrected by the MCI. And coming to the Taliban and Afghanistan issue, you know the sequence of events. The Murree talks are mediated by the Pakistan, in which the China, America and Pakistan along with the Afghanistan are the parties. But it was a big failure as Taliban showed they are not interested to participate unless their red lines are being accepted. So it means that no outsiders shall be involved in the discussions. And the Afghanistan government shall recognize them. So these are the various conditionalities which were put forward. And after this, if you observe, the Pakistan lost its credibility with regard to the mediation of the talks. Now, if you take the situation into consideration, President Ashraf Ghani, he has clearly stated that the mediation process in the Afghanistan will be an Afghan government-led process. And the second is, America is also engaging India on Afghanistan. And the QCG, Quadrilateral Coordination Group, which is constituted, appears to be non-serious about the issue. And in this context, any progress with relation to the Afghanistan, it depends upon two factors: the cohesiveness of the national unity government in Afghanistan, and the second thing is to what extent United States of America and the new president will be interested in the entire process. That will determine the future course of action over here. At the same time, Iran and Russia are also showing their interest in the Afghanistan because they believe the stable Afghanistan needs a regional solution rather than the solution from the outsiders. Now, coming to the official varsity, previously there is a grading, 4-point grading. Now it is increased to the 7-point grading by National Assessment and Accreditation Council. Now this council is an autonomous body under the University Grants Commission. So why is this done? Now previously on 4, especially from 3 to 4 points if they get, they are all getting the A grade. It means the Delhi University, JNU, which are highest on the front, and some other local universities which are close to 3 are also coming in the A grade. Now A is being made into A++ and A+, to differentiate the well-performing universities from the poor universities, which will provide a motivation for these universities to get higher in the ranks. So this is what is being provided. Coming to the Indian Express, so with regard to Italian Marines issue, the explained page tried to give an importance to it. So now, these Italian Marines, these are involved with killing of 2 fishermen from Kerala off the coast of the Kerala. At that point of time, India argues that the boat is in the Indian waters and also the ship on which Italian Marines are firing from is also on the Indian waters. So the matter has to be under the Indian jurisdiction, which was disputed by the Italy. Then Italy took that matter in December 2015 to Permanent Court of Arbitration. Now the Permanent Court of Arbitration gave its interim judgment, or what it says is the India and Italy has to cooperate, and on the humane grounds the India has to relax the conditions for the bail to the Italian mariner who is stationed in the Italy embassy in New Delhi. And the second is, it also clearly said till it gives the final judgment on the jurisdiction of the matter, the jurisdiction lies with the Indian Supreme Court. Now, Italy has also taken this matter to the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea. So when this matter was present in that particular tribunal, India argued that Italy did not change its stand when it has taken the matter to the Permanent Court of Arbitration. So in International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, Italy did not get a positive response. Then it took the matter to the Permanent Court of Arbitration. So here, the India argued the same matter once adjudged, it has been brought into another international body. Then the Permanent Court of Arbitration said that the grounds on which it has brought in to it are different from the previous. So this is what is the situation where we stand now. Coming to the Drought and MGNREGA, so the finance minister, while presenting the 2016-17 budget, he said that when considered to the previous years, the budget allocations are highest this year. But if you clearly observe, in 2010-11, when MGNREGA beneficiaries are number of man years of employment generated are at maximum, the budget allocations are 0.6% of the GDP. But today if we observe, they are around 0.26% of the GDP, which is almost close to 1/3. So it means that in real terms, in proportion to the GDP, MGNREGA allocations have drastically decreased. It also decreased during the times of worst drought the country is facing. So this is what is the author tries to expose. Coming to national insecurity, so accountability is missing with regard to the security agencies. The Raw Intelligence Bureau NSG, various security organizations, either intelligence gathering or counter-terror operations. They are not given the necessary autonomy, and added to that, they are more used by the government of the day for the political purposes. Because of this, it is also not in a position to seek the accountability from them. And coming to listen carefully, so Islamabad, the F-16 jets are cancelled to it by United States. It clearly shows the growing discontent against the Islamabad with regard to its support to the terror in the international capitals. Now, let's revise the articles, editorials, the disaster management and drought. The central government has not implemented the statutory obligations created by the Disaster Management Act on its part. Coming to none of the above option, it provides for a dissent, an option for dissent to the citizens, and more than that, as of now, it do not have any relevance. The Medical Council of India, the LODA committee, or three-member LODA committee was appointed to implement the statutory obligations. With regard to Afghanistan, the future stability of the Afghanistan depends upon the national unity government and the role played by the United States in the future. University grading, it is changed from the 4 to 7-point grading. And coming to the international affairs, so with regard to Italian Marine's issue, Permanent Court of Arbitration has said an interim bail can be offered to the mariner, and Italy and India has to cooperate till its jurisdiction has been defined. And next is MGNREGA. The 2010-11 budget and 2016-17 is observed. 10-11 is 0.6% of the GDP, 16-7 is 0.26% of the GDP. In real terms, the actual allocations have decreased. These are the important articles for today. So thank you very much.